I'm curious to get more into some details around data and logic because data you described as the absolute, and logic is like the what I would interpret as like the process or the way that that absolute kind of does stuff in some way.
Sort of, yeah. As a way of, I guess, illuminating what I mean by data and logic, I would think of a number of synonym pairs. So data and logic, I think of as synonymous to substance and structure, or essence and form. And obviously, I have more precise definitions that I provide. And so data, I identify with non-contingent, uninterpreted information, and logic to me is consistent relational structure. So it's sort of the regularity inherent, like form or structure, but yeah, specifically a notion of consistent connections between individual parts of that whole, I guess.
Mm. I know that a lot of people who like to use the idea that information is fundamental, they're still physicalists in the strict sense of a term.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, how does your model depart from that definition, if it does?
I mean, I think that in that case, like information is just being taken as a brute fact in that physical sense, which I regard as unacceptable. The only things I think can be brute facts are things for which there are no alternatives. Like, so for which an explanation is not necessary because they're self-explanatory in that way, right? Whereas physics and the nature of physical information doesn't seem self-explanatory. It seems open to questions. And I guess generally how I think of any kind of physicalist project is that it just commits itself to an explanatory lacuna at the bottom. Because when we try to explain the particular values that physical variables have, we might appeal to sort of other physical forces or mechanics, fields, however we might construe that, and sort of explain the values that the ones that we can observe have by appealing to more fundamental physical variables. But of course, those then stand in need of an explanation. And if you continue trying to furnish a physical explanation, you kind of run into a wall where you either have to say, well, this is a brute fact, or you have a regression of some kind. And the kind of explanation that's needed is one that sort of transcends physicality, something that's based in necessity, not in contingency. And physics, I would always identify with contingency, things that could be otherwise, could be other than they are.